There's a reason Napoleon Hill called his first great work The Law of Success. It was not just a book, it was a blueprint. For years, he studied the most powerful, influential, and successful men and women of his generation, dissecting their habits, their beliefs, their principles. And what he discovered was that success is not an accident. It is not random. It is not luck. Success is a law. And like every law in the universe, it works the same for everyone who applies it. The law of success is not about shortcuts. It is not about magic tricks or secrets hidden in the shadows. It is about deep principles, principles that govern how the human mind works, how the subconscious operates, how faith transforms into action, and how persistence turns vision into reality. These are not theories, they are laws. And when you align with a law, it works for you, just as gravity works whether you believe in it or not. Napoleon Hill discovered that every single person who achieved greatness followed these principles, whether they knew it or not. They had definiteness of purpose. They had burning desire. They had faith in their vision. They practiced self-discipline, controlled their thoughts, and surrounded themselves with people who fueled their growth. These were not coincidences. They were laws at work. The reason the law of success works is simple. It is built on how the human mind and spirit actually function. Your thoughts are seeds. Your subconscious is the soil. Your emotions are the water. Your persistence is the sunlight. And your actions are the harvest. The law of success is the structure that explains this process, so you can use it consciously instead of living by accident. Most people drift. They live without definiteness of purpose. They let their fears shape their decisions. They listen to the opinions of the crowd instead of the whisper of their own vision. And because they drift, they never achieve what they were capable of. But when you apply the law of success, drifting ends. You gain clarity. You gain focus. You gain momentum. You begin to move with purpose, and life itself begins to respond. This is why Hill's work still resonates a century later. Because the principles never change. The same law that carried men like Edison, Carnegie, and Ford to greatness is the same law that can carry you today. Technology changes. Society changes. But human nature, the subconscious mind, and the law of faith remain constant. And here is the truth. The law of success is not reserved for the chosen few. It is available to anyone who is willing to study it, believe it, and apply it with persistence. The law does not discriminate. It works for the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the young and the old. The only question is whether you will use it or ignore it. Think of it this way. Electricity existed long before humanity discovered it. It was always there, waiting to be harnessed. The law of success is the same. It has always existed. Napoleon Hill did not invent it. He revealed it. And now, it is in your hands. But the law of success is not theory, it is practice. It requires you to make decisions. It requires you to take control of your mind. It requires you to persist when others quit. And that is why most people never master it, because it demands responsibility. It demands growth. It demands that you rise above excuses and step into purpose. And yet, for the one who embraces it, everything changes. You begin to see opportunities where before you saw obstacles. You begin to feel confidence where before you felt fear. You begin to attract people, resources, and circumstances that align with your vision. And all of this happens because you are finally working with the law instead of against it. This is why Hill insisted that definiteness of purpose is the first principle. Without purpose, persistence collapses. Without purpose, faith weakens. Without purpose, success is impossible. But with purpose, every law comes alive. With purpose, your subconscious begins to work in harmony with your vision. With purpose, your faith grows. With purpose, your persistence becomes unshakable. Purpose is the foundation of the law of success. And when you discover yours, the law begins to operate in your favor. So here is the truth. You are not powerless. You're not a victim of chance. You're not trapped by your past. The law of success is alive, and it is waiting for you to apply it. The question is not whether it works. The question is whether you will work it. When Napoleon Hill published Think and Grow Rich in 1937, he condensed decades of study, thousands of interviews, and the essence of the law of success into a clear, powerful formula that millions could apply. And that book became one of the most influential works of all time. Not because it promised quick riches, but because it revealed timeless principles. Principles that, when applied, create transformation not only in wealth but in every area of life. The reason Think and Grow Rich still works is because it is not really about money. Money is only a byproduct. The book is about mindset, faith, persistence, and the subconscious. It is about the invisible forces that shape your reality. It is about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts success because of who you are, how you think, and how you act. One of the greatest secrets in Think and Grow Rich is the concept of a burning desire. Not a wish, not a vague hope, but a consuming, obsessive desire that refuses to be denied. Hill explained that every great achievement begins with desire, because desire is the spark that ignites faith, fuels persistence, and drives action. Without desire, there is no power. With desire, the impossible becomes inevitable. But desire alone is not enough. It must be backed by faith, the ability to see the unseen, to believe in the invisible, to trust in the future you are building even when it has not yet arrived. Faith is the foundation that transforms desire into reality. Faith is what keeps you moving when logic tells you to quit. Faith is what gives you the courage to act in the absence of proof. And faith is not passive, it is active. Hill revealed that faith can be cultivated through autosuggestion, the process of impressing your subconscious mind with thoughts of victory until they become your reality. When you repeat affirmations, visualize your goals, and speak words of belief, you are programming your subconscious mind to expect success. And because the subconscious does not argue, it accepts what you give it and begins to shape your behavior, your habits, and even the circumstances of your life to align with that belief. Another secret of Think and Grow Rich is the power of the mastermind. Hill discovered that no one succeeds alone. Every great achievement is the result of collaboration, of surrounding yourself with people who share your vision, fuel your faith, and challenge you to grow. The mastermind principle is about creating a collective energy that is greater than the sum of its parts. When two or more minds align in harmony, they create a third mind, a force of creation, a channel of inspiration, a magnet for opportunity. And then there is decision. Hill warned that indecision is one of the greatest enemies of success. Most people hesitate, drift, and delay. They wait for perfect conditions that never come. But successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. They know that the power of persistence is born in decision. Once you decide, truly decide, that you will achieve your goal, the universe begins to rearrange itself around that decision. But if you waver, if you hesitate, you weaken your own power. Connected to decision is persistence, the heartbeat of Think and Grow Rich. Hill wrote that persistence is to human character what carbon is to steel. It is the quality that strengthens you, refines you, and makes you unbreakable. Most people quit when things get hard. But those who persist, those who refuse to surrender, eventually succeed. Because persistence guarantees that you will outlast the obstacles, outlast the delays, outlast the resistance until the breakthrough comes. Hill also spoke about the subconscious mind as the connecting link between the finite and the infinite. It is the gateway through which faith translates desire into reality. And this is why guarding your thoughts is so important. Every thought you persist in becomes a seed planted in the subconscious. Plant fear, and fear will grow. Plant faith, and faith will grow. Plant doubt, and doubt will grow. Plant vision, persistence, and determination, and your subconscious will align with them until they manifest in your life. And then there is the principle of the sixth sense, the intuitive faculty that Hill described as the door to the temple of wisdom. This sixth sense is not something mystical. It is the result of aligning your conscious mind, your subconscious, your faith, your desire, and your persistence until they create a channel through which ideas, inspirations, and guidance flow. Many of history's greatest achievements were the result not only of logic, but of flashes of inspiration that came to those who had trained their minds to be receptive through persistence and faith. What makes Think and Grow Rich so powerful is that it gives you a structure. It shows you that success is not random. It is built. It shows you that wealth, whether financial, spiritual, or personal, is the result of thoughts transformed into reality through desire, faith, autosuggestion, persistence, and action. And it shows you that anyone, no matter their background, can apply these principles. Millions of people have read the book, but the truth is only a few apply it fully. And those few transform their lives. They discover that Think and Grow Rich is not about money. It is about mastery. Mastery of thought, mastery of faith, mastery of persistence, mastery of self. And once you master yourself, you can master anything. So here is the secret. It is not enough to read the book. You must live it. You must take the principles and apply them daily. You must write your desire, affirm your faith, practice autosuggestion, make decisions, persist in action, and discipline your mind. If you do, you will discover that Think and Grow Rich is not just a book. It is a way of life. And that way of life will lead you to freedom, abundance, and legacy. When Napoleon Hill wrote Outwitting the Devil in 1938, he created something so bold, so raw, that it was kept hidden for decades. The book was considered too controversial, too dangerous, too disruptive to be published in its time. Why? Because it did not just teach success principles. It exposed the hidden forces that keep most people from ever reaching success. It revealed the voice of fear, the habits of drifting, and the mental chains that enslave the majority of humanity. Hill's conversation with the devil is a metaphor, but the truths inside it are real. The devil in the book is not some horned figure with fire and smoke. It is the voice of fear, the patterns of procrastination, the systems of control that keep people small. And Hill exposed its strategies with clarity: fear, indecision, doubt, and drifting. The first great enemy Hill described is fear. Fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, fear of loss of love, fear of old age, fear of death. These fears dominate the minds of most people, keeping them paralyzed, keeping them weak, keeping them obedient to mediocrity. Fear whispers constantly, and those who listen become slaves to it. But Hill's answer is simple. Fear is nothing but faith inverted. Fear is belief in the worst, while faith is belief in the best. Fear is imagination poisoned, while faith is imagination purified. And since both are choices, you must decide which one will rule your mind. Fear will keep you small, but faith will set you free. The second great enemy is indecision. Hill called it the habit of drifting, the failure to choose, the failure to decide, the failure to take control of your own mind. Drifters go with the flow of society. They do what others expect, not what their purpose demands. They avoid risk, they avoid responsibility, they avoid the pain of growth. And because they drift, they waste their lives in mediocrity. Hill said the devil controls 98% of humanity through drifting. People drift into jobs they hate, into relationships that drain them, into habits that destroy them. They drift because it is easier than deciding. But drifting is death in disguise. It kills slowly, numbing the spirit until nothing is left. The way out is definiteness of purpose. The decision to stop drifting. The decision to take control of your thoughts, your habits, your actions. The decision to live by faith, not fear. The decision to master your own mind. Hill insisted that once a person develops definiteness of purpose, they step into the 2%. The few who are free, the few who cannot be controlled, the few who live with true power. The third great enemy is excuses and habits. The devil wins when people waste their energy on distractions, on addictions, on patterns of laziness and comfort. He thrives on procrastination, on hesitation, on people who say, "Someday I will change," but never act. Hill revealed that the devil doesn't have to destroy most people. They destroy themselves through their own drifting and excuses. And yet, the moment you choose discipline, the moment you choose faith, the moment you choose persistence, you outwit the devil. Because the devil has no power over a mind that thinks independently, a mind anchored in purpose, a mind filled with faith instead of fear. What makes outwitting the devil so powerful is that it is not just about external success. It is about inner freedom. It exposes the spiritual and mental slavery that traps millions, and it shows you how to break free. It forces you to look at your own life and ask, am I drifting? Am I living in fear? Am I wasting my potential? And if the answer is yes, the book challenges you to rise. The secret is that the devil only controls those who allow themselves to be controlled. He cannot force you to drift. You choose it. He cannot force you to fear. You allow it. He cannot force you to quit. You surrender. The moment you decide to think for yourself, to take control of your mind, to persist in your purpose, you break his chains. This is why the book feels so relevant today. In a world full of distractions, noise, and fear, most people are drifting more than ever. They live glued to screens, consumed by opinions, paralyzed by fear of judgment, constantly waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. They are slaves without even realizing it. But outwitting the devil is a wake-up call. It says, take back your mind. Take back your purpose. Take back your freedom. Decide. Believe. Persist. Live intentionally instead of drifting. And when you do, everything changes. Fear loses its power. Doubt shrinks. Discipline grows. Faith strengthens. And the devil, the voice of fear, has no place left in your life. That is the gift of persistence, of definiteness, of purpose, of faith. You are no longer controlled. You are free. Napoleon Hill revealed one of the greatest truths about the human experience. Your subconscious mind is the gateway to power. It is the silent force that shapes your beliefs, directs your actions, and creates your reality. And the tool to influence it, the tool to take control of your destiny, is autosuggestion. Most people live as prisoners of their subconscious. They absorb fear, doubt, and negativity from their environment. And because the subconscious does not argue, it accepts everything it is given. Over time, those thoughts solidify into beliefs. Those beliefs solidify into habits. And those habits create a life that reflects them. People wonder why they live in constant struggle, but they fail to see that it is because they are constantly programming themselves with failure. Hill insisted that the subconscious mind does not care whether the thoughts you feed it are positive or negative. It will accept both. If you tell yourself you are weak, it will believe you. If you tell yourself you are strong, it will believe you. If you repeat daily that you are destined to fail, your subconscious will shape your behavior to make it true. But if you affirm with conviction that you are destined for greatness, your subconscious will move heaven and earth to align with that. That is the power of autosuggestion. It is the deliberate act of planting seeds of faith, vision, and determination into your subconscious mind until they take root. And once they take root, they grow into reality. Think of your subconscious as fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant, fear or faith, doubt or confidence, scarcity or abundance, it will grow. Autosuggestion is the act of choosing which seeds you plant. Instead of allowing fear and negativity to dominate, you deliberately feed your subconscious with affirmations, with vision, with burning desire. You repeat them until your subconscious cannot distinguish between what is imagined and what is real. And then it begins to shape your reality to match what you have impressed upon it. This is why visualization is so powerful. When you see yourself living the life you desire, when you imagine with clarity and emotion, your subconscious begins to accept it as fact. And once it accepts it, it influences your conscious actions, your emotions, and even your intuition to bring it into being. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. You begin to attract people and resources that align with your vision. You begin to act with confidence that you never had before. Autosuggestion is not magic, it is law. It works because your subconscious controls your habits, and your habits control your results. By using autosuggestion, you reprogram your subconscious, which reprograms your habits, which reprograms your destiny. But here is the key: repetition. You cannot affirm something once and expect change. Just as a seed requires daily water and sunlight, your subconscious requires daily repetition of faith-filled thoughts. The more you repeat, the deeper the impression. The deeper the impression, the stronger the belief. The stronger the belief, the greater the results. This is why Hill advised writing down your definite purpose, your burning desire, and repeating it every morning and every night. Speak it aloud with emotion. Visualize it with clarity. Feel it as though it is already real. Because emotion is the language of the subconscious. Cold words do little, but words spoken with passion, with conviction, with desire, ignite the subconscious into action. Your subconscious mind is also the connection between the finite and the infinite. It is the link between your conscious desires and the universal intelligence Hill often described. When you impress your subconscious with faith and persistence, it communicates with forces beyond your logic, drawing ideas, opportunities, and inspiration from sources you cannot always explain. That is why many of history's greatest breakthroughs came in flashes of intuition, in moments of inspiration. Their subconscious, properly trained, had opened the channel to higher wisdom. But just as faith can open the channel, fear can close it. If your subconscious is dominated by fear, doubt, and negativity, it cannot access higher wisdom. It becomes clouded, blocked, resistant. That is why guarding your mind is essential. The music you listen to, the conversations you entertain, the media you consume, all of it plants seeds in your subconscious. If you're not intentional, your mind will be overrun with weeds. So guard it. Choose carefully what you feed your mind. Surround yourself with people who lift you, words that inspire you, visions that expand you. Speak daily affirmations of faith and abundance. Visualize your destiny as though it is already done. Train your subconscious to expect victory, and it will create the conditions for victory. Napoleon Hill explained that the subconscious mind never rests. It works day and night, shaping your thoughts, influencing your emotions, guiding your actions. The question is not whether it is working. The question is what instructions you're giving it. If you give it fear, it will faithfully produce fear. If you give it faith, it will faithfully produce faith. This is why so many people live in cycles of struggle. They're hypnotizing themselves with failure. Every day they repeat words of defeat. I can't. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. And because they repeat them, their subconscious accepts them. And because their subconscious accepts them, they act in ways that fulfill them. But the moment you flip the script, the moment you say, I will, I can, I must, I am destined for greatness, everything begins to change. Your subconscious accepts those words just as faithfully. And once it accepts them, it sets into motion the chain of belief, action, and destiny that will bring them to life. This is why autosuggestion is so powerful. It is self-mastery. It is taking control of your inner world so you can master your outer world. It is refusing to drift in fear and choosing to program your mind for faith. So here is the truth. Your future is already being written in your subconscious. The only question is whether you are writing it with fear or with faith, with doubt or with purpose, with excuses or with persistence. And the pen is in your hand. Failure is the most misunderstood word in the human language. Most people see failure as the end, as proof that they were never good enough, as a reason to quit. But Napoleon Hill revealed the truth. Failure is never permanent unless you accept it as such. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. It is the teacher, the refiner, the preparation for greatness. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has failed, again and again. Edison failed over 10,000 times before perfecting the light bulb. Henry Ford failed and went bankrupt multiple times before building his empire. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election before becoming one of history's greatest leaders. What made them different was not the absence of failure, but the presence of persistence. Persistence is the antidote to failure. Failure says, "You are done." Persistence says, "Not yet." Failure says, "You cannot." Persistence says, "Watch me." Failure tries to close the door. Persistence breaks it open. Napoleon Hill wrote that most people are inches away from success when they quit. Think about that. Inches away. They endured the pain. They endured the struggle. They endured the delays, only to give up just before the breakthrough. That is the tragedy of those who quit too soon. They never realize how close they were. Failure is never final, is feedback. Every failure teaches you something you needed to learn. It exposes a weakness, reveals a blind spot, strengthens your character. If you persist, failure becomes fuel. If you quit, failure becomes fatal. The choice is yours. Persistence transforms failure into growth. With persistence, rejection becomes redirection. With persistence, defeat becomes discovery. With persistence, mistakes become mastery. Every time you rise again, you turn failure into a stepping stone. Without persistence, the same failure becomes a gravestone. This is why Hill said persistence is to character what carbon is to steel. It makes you unbreakable. Without persistence, you remain fragile, easily broken by setbacks, easily discouraged by rejection, easily stopped by obstacles. With persistence, you become resilient, determined, unstoppable. But persistence does not happen by accident. It is built. It is a choice you make daily, to rise, to continue, to endure. It is a muscle you strengthen every time you refuse to quit. The more you persist, the easier persistence becomes. And here is the paradox. The more you fail, the stronger you grow if you persist. Each failure adds weight to your character. Each setback sharpens your vision. Each obstacle refines your faith. What looks like defeat is actually training. Life is not punishing you. Life is preparing you. Hill insisted that every adversity carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But that seed is only revealed to those who persist. If you quit, you never see the benefit. If you persist, you harvest the hidden gift. Think of your own life. The times you grew the most were not when things were easy. They were when you were tested, when you struggled, when you failed. And because you persisted, you became wiser, stronger, more resilient. That is the power of persistence. Most people fear failure because they fear judgment. They're so afraid of what others will say that they never take the risk. But here is the truth. People will always talk. They will criticize whether you fail or succeed. So why not persist anyway? Why not chase the vision anyway? Why not endure the failures that lead to greatness instead of the failures that come from never trying? Persistence demands courage. Courage to face ridicule. Courage to face rejection. Courage to face delay. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. And when you move forward, fear loses its grip. This is why persistence and purpose are inseparable. Without purpose, persistence collapses. Without a burning desire, you will not endure failure. But when your purpose is strong enough, you will face anything. You will rise again and again because the vision is worth it. Hill discovered that the men and women who changed the world were not the ones who never failed, but the ones who never quit. They turned failure into fire, and that fire forged their destiny. So when you fail, and you will, do not despair. Do not surrender. Do not declare the end. Instead, declare, "This is the beginning. This is my training. This is my lesson." And then persist. Persist when you feel weak. Persist when the world doubts you. Persist when your own mind whispers lies. Persist until failure becomes fuel, until persistence becomes victory, until your story becomes a living testimony that faith, purpose, and discipline are stronger than fear, doubt, and defeat. Failure will try to define you, but persistence will rewrite the definition. Napoleon Hill taught that definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement. Without purpose, you drift. Without purpose, you lack direction. Without purpose, you waste time, energy, and opportunity. But with purpose, everything changes. Purpose is the compass that gives meaning to persistence, strength to faith, and clarity to decision. Most people never define their purpose. They live by accident instead of by design. They chase the expectations of society instead of the calling of their soul. They drift from one job to another, from one goal to another, never anchoring their life in something deeper. And because they lack purpose, they lack power. But when you discover your purpose, when you decide clearly who you are and why you are here, you ignite a force within you that nothing can extinguish. Purpose fuels desire. Purpose fuels faith. Purpose fuels persistence. Purpose is what makes the struggle meaningful. Purpose transforms sacrifice into devotion. Purpose turns obstacles into stepping stones. And purpose requires decision. Hill emphasized that indecision is one of the greatest enemies of success. The drifter never decides. He hesitates, delays, postpones. He waits for the perfect time that never comes. But the successful person makes decisions quickly and firmly, and then persists with them until victory arrives. Decision is power. Decision transforms thought into action. Decision signals to your subconscious mind and to the universe that you are serious. The moment you decide, truly decide, your life begins to align with that decision. Doors open, people appear, strength rises. But when you waver, when you hesitate, when you live in indecision, you weaken yourself and close the door to opportunity. Every great transformation begins with a decision. The decision to stop drifting. The decision to live with purpose. The decision to believe in yourself. The decision to persist no matter what. Decision is the gateway to power. And that brings us to the third force, power. He'll explain that power is the organized and directed application of knowledge. Knowledge alone is not power. Potential knowledge is useless unless it is applied with decision and persistence. Power comes when you take purpose, fuel it with faith, and drive it with decision. Then your actions align, your will strengthens, and your life gains momentum. There are different sources of power. Personal power, the power of the mastermind, the power of faith, the power of persistence. But all of them depend on decision. Without decision, your power is scattered. With decision, your power is concentrated. Think of a magnifying glass. The sun's rays spread everywhere, but when focused through the glass, they create fire. Your mind is the same. Scattered thoughts have no power, but when focused by purpose and decision, they ignite into unstoppable power. Purpose tells you what to focus on. Decision locks in the focus. Power is the result. And once you step into power, your life changes. You stop waiting for permission. You stop living small. You stop apologizing for your vision. You move with authority, with confidence, with certainty. You attract respect because you respect yourself. You attract opportunities because you are ready for them. You attract success because you are aligned with the law of success. But power is not for selfish gain. True power is always tied to purpose. If your purpose is only about yourself, your power will collapse. But if your purpose is tied to impact, to service, to lifting others, your power becomes limitless. Because you are not only working for yourself, you are working for something greater than you. Hill revealed that the most successful men and women were those who connected their purpose to something beyond themselves. They were driven by vision, by service, by a desire to create, to build, to inspire. That is why their persistence never ran out. Selfish goals burn out. Selfless purpose endures. So ask yourself, what is my purpose? What am I willing to decide on today that will change the trajectory of my life? Where will I direct my power? Do not postpone this. Purpose delayed is destiny denied. Decision delayed is power lost. Life will not wait forever. The clock is ticking. The world is waiting. And your destiny is calling. Hill's message is clear. Define your purpose. Make a decision. Step into your power. And then persist until your vision becomes your reality. The phrase law of attraction has become popular in modern times, often simplified into the idea that if you think positively, good things will happen. But Napoleon Hill's perspective was far deeper, more disciplined, and more practical. He did not teach wishful thinking. He taught that your thoughts, when mixed with belief and persistence, become forces that shape your reality. Hill explained that the subconscious mind is like a magnet. Whatever thoughts you persistently hold in your conscious mind are impressed upon the subconscious. And once they take root there, they begin to attract people, circumstances, and opportunities that harmonize with those thoughts. This is not magic, it is law. Just as gravity works whether you understand it or not, the law of attraction works whether you believe in it or not. But here's the truth Hill made clear. You cannot attract what you do not believe. If you repeat affirmations without faith, your subconscious rejects them. If you visualize without persistence, your imagination remains weak. Attraction only works when thought is combined with emotion, when desire is backed by faith, when persistence proves you mean what you declare. Most people fail because they try to attract something they do not truly believe they can have. They say the words, but in their hearts they carry doubt, fear, and unworthiness. And the subconscious listens not to empty words, but to dominant belief. That is why Hill insisted on the principle of autosuggestion, because repetition with emotion transforms belief, and belief transforms attraction. The law of attraction, according to Hill, is not passive. It is active. You do not simply sit and wait for things to fall into your lap. You think, you believe, you persist, and you act. Action is faith in motion. And when you act in alignment with your vision, doors open that would never open otherwise. Opportunities appear that would have stayed hidden. People are drawn to you who would never have noticed you before. Why? Because you have changed. And when you change, your world changes. Hill gave us a simple truth. Thoughts are things. They're not just ideas floating in the air. They are real, living forces. Every great invention, every business, every work of art, every movement in history began as a thought. Someone persisted in that thought long enough, fed it with faith, and acted upon it until it became reality. That is the law of attraction at work. But it works both ways. Persist in thoughts of fear, and you will attract failure. Persist in thoughts of scarcity, and you will attract lack. Persist in thoughts of doubt, and you will attract obstacles that confirm your doubt. This is why Hill warned us to guard our minds carefully, to control the input, to deliberately choose the thoughts we allow to dominate. Because whether you attract abundance or despair depends on what you think about most of the time. The beauty of Hill's teaching is that you are never a victim. You always have the power to choose your thoughts, to choose your beliefs, to choose your focus. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can control what you think about them. And by controlling your thoughts, you influence your subconscious. And by influencing your subconscious, you attract new circumstances. That is true power. So how do you apply the law of attraction according to Hill? Define your purpose clearly. Attraction without direction is chaos. You must know what you want. The clearer your vision, the stronger your attraction. Fuel it with burning desire. Desire is the energy that powers attraction. Without passion, thoughts are weak. With passion, they are unstoppable. Back it with faith. Believe so strongly that your vision becomes more real to you than your current reality. Faith transforms possibility into inevitability. Use autosuggestion. Repeat your vision daily. Speak it. Write it. Visualize it with emotion. Impress it on your subconscious until it becomes your identity. Persist in action. Attraction is not waiting. It is moving. Persist in disciplined action, even when results are invisible. Guard your mind. Do not let fear and doubt dominate. Replace them with affirmations, gratitude, and images of victory. When you live this way, attraction becomes natural. You no longer chase success. Success is drawn to you. You no longer beg for opportunities. Opportunities find you. You no longer doubt your future. You know it is only a matter of time. Hill's version of the law of attraction is powerful because it is grounded in responsibility. It does not tell you to wait. It tells you to work. It does not tell you to hope. It tells you to believe. It does not tell you to dream passively. It tells you to dream with discipline, persistence, and faith. And when you do, life responds. The world around you reshapes itself to match the world within you. Because you do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. Napoleon Hill's influence is undeniable. His works, The Law of Success, Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, have reached hundreds of millions of readers worldwide, shaping lives, inspiring entrepreneurs, and fueling movements of personal growth for nearly a century. But like every great figure, his legacy is not without controversy. And that controversy makes his story even more fascinating. Hill lived through turbulent times, the Great Depression, 2 world wars, cultural shifts that redefined what success meant. His message of definiteness of purpose, faith, persistence, and the power of the mind resonated because people were desperate for hope, desperate for a formula, desperate for a way to rise from despair into abundance. And his teachings gave him a path. But critics often question his biography. Did he truly meet Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, and Henry Ford as he claimed? Did Carnegie really commission him to study success for decades? Some historians doubt the story, pointing out inconsistencies and lack of hard evidence. Others defend Hill, saying whether or not every detail of his story was literal, the principles he uncovered were timeless, and the impact of his work speaks for itself. This tension between inspiration and controversy is part of what makes Hill's legacy so powerful. On one side, you have skeptics who argue he exaggerated or mythologized his life. On the other side, you have millions of people whose lives have been changed because they applied his teachings. The fact remains, whether every claim was literal or not, the principles he taught, faith, desire, persistence, autosuggestion, work. And that is why his books remain bestsellers today. Another controversy came with Outwitting the Devil. Written in 1938 but locked away until 2011, the book was considered too radical for its time. In it, Hill personified the devil as fear, doubt, and drifting, and he exposed how society, education, and even religion often keep people trapped in mediocrity. For decades, publishers and even Hill's own family were afraid to release it, fearing backlash. And yet, when it was finally published, it resonated deeply with modern readers who saw in it not heresy, but truth. This shows something important about Hill's legacy. He was not afraid to challenge systems. He was not afraid to confront fear directly. He was not afraid to expose the mental and spiritual prisons that enslave people. And whether or not the devil in his book was literal, the message was clear. Your greatest enemy is not outside of you. It is within you. Hill's life also had its struggles. He faced financial failures, broken relationships, and accusations of fraud from critics. He was not a perfect man. He was a man who wrestled with the same challenges as anyone else: fear, doubt, failure. And maybe that is why his words carry so much weight. He did not speak from a pedestal of perfection. He spoke as someone who knew what it was to fail, to struggle, to doubt, and yet to persist. And this is perhaps the most important part of his legacy. Not whether every claim in his biography can be verified, but whether his teachings empower people to live with purpose and persistence. And they do. Millions have started businesses, overcome fear, rebuilt their lives, and discovered faith because of Hill's work. That is impact. That is legacy. His critics focus on controversy. His followers focus on transformation. And the truth is, both are part of the story. Hill's legacy is not about being flawless. It is about being fearless enough to speak truths that still resonate today. So how should we see Napoleon Hill? As a teacher of laws that transcend time. As a man who dared to believe that success could be studied, practiced, and reproduced. As a flawed human being who still managed to channel wisdom that has empowered generations. The controversies add intrigue. The legacy adds weight. And together, they remind us that truth is often carried in imperfect vessels. Hill's life may be debated, but his principles remain unshaken. Definiteness of purpose, faith, persistence, autosuggestion, the power of the subconscious mind. These are not theories, they are laws. And when applied, they work regardless of who you are or where you start. That is why Hill's name still echoes nearly a century later. That is why Think and Grow Rich continues to sell millions of copies. That is why entrepreneurs, leaders, and seekers still quote his words. Because the principles endure, the laws remain, the truth does not die. And this is the final lesson. Do not get lost in the controversy. Do not waste energy debating the man. Focus on the message. Test the principles. Apply them in your own life. See for yourself if they work. Because if you persist in applying them, you will discover what millions already know. Napoleon Hill's work is not just philosophy, it is transformation. His legacy, like every great legacy, is not measured by perfection, it is measured by impact. And his impact is undeniable. So take the principles, take the laws, take the wisdom, and write your own legacy with them. Because Hill's story, with all its brilliance and controversy, points us back to the same truth. Faith, desire, persistence, and purpose will always transform a life.